think we should get started because we've got a fair few people with us already this morning, which is lovely to see. Thank you. And I know that Helen and Jack have got a lot to talk about. So I will start with housekeeping and then I'll hand over to our speakers and I'll switch my camera off. Good morning. Thank you everyone for joining us. What we're going to talk about today is something that we have been asked lots and lots of questions about on previous webinars, because we often talk about how to do email well, or kind of how to raise lots of money from email. And one of the big questions is that's very well and good, but how do you build an email list? So we thought we'd do a session dedicated to just that. Helen has got 5 top tips that she's going to share with you. Before we get into that, housekeeping things is there is closed captions enabled, so you should be able to see the subtitles. If you want to switch those off, if you find them distracting, you can also hide subtitles down into the options. So you should be able to switch the subtitles on and off. We're going to try and get the webinar chat function working, but also we're going to do Q&As at the end. So we have plenty of time for Q&A. And so you can use the Q&A function to ask your questions throughout. We'll take a note of them. We'll either answer live if we can, or we've got plenty of time at the end to finish. And the fact that Josh is saying good day means that I think we do have live chat function working as well. So you can chat away, add comments, add your thoughts as we go. You can pop questions in there, but if you use the Q&A function, then we'll be able to see them all together. We are hoping to do kind of 45 minutes of talking, and then we have plenty of time for questions as well. So I'm going to be quiet. I'm just going to do, if you click onto the first slide, Helen, then I can introduce everyone. So we're really excited this morning. Helen is going to be leading us through the kind of key thinking that we have around how to build your email list. Helen is a wonderful strategy director who has been with us for some years at Forward Action. And before joining us at Forward Action was at the One campaign, where she led not least the brilliant quiz that I think she'll be talking about today a bit as well, and ActionAid. And then we're really excited to have Jack with us as well, because Jack is head of digital and campaigns at Freedom from Torture, where you probably hopefully know the awesome work that they've been doing there, leading the fight against kind of the Rwanda deportations and many, many other terrible things that this government seems hell-bent on doing. So we're really excited to partner with Freedom from Torture and to have Jack here to talk to us today. And I'm Ali, I'm the Partnerships Director, and I'm going to put myself on stopping the video, put myself on mute and hand over to Helen. So enjoy.
Thanks, Ali. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Nice to see so many of you online, nice and early. I can see some familiar names and organisations, which is lovely, and lots of people I've not met before. So we've called this a masterclass. We know lots of you are already using lots of these tactics to grow your email lists. And so we want to make sure that we're sharing like our very top tips and those kind of optimization ideas to make these perform in the best possible way for you. We also know that there's probably this might be a bit new to some of you, some of these tactics. So hopefully this is also kind of accessible, and we'll walk you through exactly what they are and give you examples of how they work as well. So hopefully something for everyone this morning. So just before we dive into what they are, seems like an obvious question. You're all sitting here at 9 o'clock, so you obviously think that email is important. Just in case anyone questions you on that, what we normally tell people is yes, email is really important for organisations. It's not just us that think that. If you've read the M&R Benchmarks UK report, which is fantastic, if you haven't looked that up, the data from last year shows that in the UK, for every 1,000 fundraising emails sent, on average, organisations raise £211 from those 1,000 emails. So it's definitely worth doing, and that's just a fundraising metric. There's obviously many other benefits for your campaigns and engagement around sending email. It's the foundation of a strong digital mobilisation programme. I won't go into lots of detail about that. Hopefully you kind of know what that means. But yes, everything we do often drives towards being able to have these like consistent communications with supporters, and obviously email means you can do that really regularly, you can do it really reactively depending on what's happening in the world, and it's relatively cheap obviously to send email in bulk. And then finally, you can scale it really quickly, and we know that if you want to achieve change, scale is really critical for that, and email can do that for you. So that's the why. Oh, we're going to do a quick poll, aren't we? Just to wake everyone up. Ali, are you okay to do this?
Yeah, so we have a quick question here just to see where everyone is at the moment, which is, how's your supporter email list going? Are you just getting started, getting there, or you're doing great? 10 more seconds on this. So really positive to see. I'm going to end the poll now. And what we've got is 13% of people are just getting started, 79% of people are getting there. So that's great. Everyone feels like they're making some good headway, but there's room for improvement. And 9% of people are feeling super enthusiastic and going great. So that's the room that we're talking to today. Everyone's making positive headway, but it's kind of early days, but there's room for improvement.
Great, thank you. Yeah, that's great to know. That's kind of what we see from all the partners we work with as well. That lots of people have some great ideas and are getting started. Everyone's always looking. Most people are looking to do more. Okay, so let's jump straight in. So our 5 most powerful tactics for growing your email list. Number 1, challenges. This is probably the funnest and most exciting one to do. We do a lot of these. So this is basically, a challenge, a quiz, a game, something that intrigues people, something they're going to get a personal result from. We call them engagement tools as well as kind of a catch-all. Sorry, just to explain, we're going to do a very quick run through of what the five tactics are. Then we'll go into some detail about each one, and I'll show you some examples of our partners putting them to work in the world, and sort of top tips around that. So a quick overview, challenges first. Then we've got shared values, which we most commonly refer to as hand raisers. So that idea that you're kind of running a petition that's not a petition in the sense that it's not targeted at anyone, or it doesn't have a policy change objective, but it's a values-based statement that people want to add their name to, a statement that they find really hard to disagree with. And it helps you attract the people who are going to be natural supporters for your cause. Third one, surveys. We do lots of surveys. We often do them in emails, but in the last year or two, we've started testing surveys as like a point of entry. So the first thing that you use to kind of engage someone and bring them into your organization, and it's going really well. So we're going to talk about how you could start doing that a bit more. Next up, awesome opt-ins. We love opt-ins at Forward Action. This is very simply the idea that, every time you've got any kind of signed up form, you're normally asking people to opt in to hear from you. And by really focusing on that and making it the best you can be, you're going to make sure as many people as possible come onto your email list and you're not losing people unnecessarily. And then the final one is to maximize your organic sharing. We all kind of naturally stick a share ask on the end of most things. But again, if you really focus in on it and test it and optimize it, that could be driving so much kind of free traffic back to your signups. So they're the tactics. The first 3, as you can see, are much more in the kind of tool space. They're like particular tools that you can use to bring people in. The last 2 are more like overarching things that apply to everything you do. So this goes across all your different tools and tactics. But yeah, hopefully we'll dig into exactly what all of these things mean. So, oh yes, just to give you some ideas of who we've done this with. Ali, are you okay to talk through this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is our kind of humble brag slide of the awesome partners that we've been working with in recent years to help build these lists. And so kind of we've talked quite a lot. You may have heard us talk about our work with Refuge or with Campaign for Dignity in Dying, where we've built their email lists using a range of tools. But then we've been working more recently with Freedom from Torture, hence bringing Jack along here, and with Good Law Project. And so these results, like I said, Helen's going to talk maybe about the One campaign and that huge growth that they had from a single quiz, which is incredible. But looking at kind of Freedom from Torture and Refuge and Good Law Project, it's been this kind of values-based hand raisers that's really driven a lot of that growth. And the Good Law Project is our most recent one. And it's really exciting. We've bringing in 40,000 new subscribers within 12 weeks. So that shows kind of the volume that you can get quite quickly. It doesn't have to be a slow process. So these are the proof that some of these tactics really can work powerfully.
Thanks, Ali. Okay, so let's jump in with challenges. Most often they're quizzes, but they can be other kind of engagement tools that that have quite a fun, appealing hook that you can use to get people to start engaging with you. 2 examples we've got here for you just to see what they're like. The one 9 countries quiz, which Ali just mentioned. We did this back in 2017. It's still our most successful quiz to date. So it did truly go viral. I think it's probably the only time we can say that about something. So it had very little paid social spend on it. But yeah, it just got shared hugely around the world. And we had over 2.6 million complete the quiz, and over 500,000 people signed up to one's global email list at the end. And if you haven't seen it or played it, it's a very simple geography quiz, multiple choice questions. There's a really strong pivot towards the end, which then tells you that the countries you've just been guessing are some of the hardest places for a girl to get an education, and that there's 130 million girls out of school right now. So I asked them to then sign a petition to world leaders to change that. So yeah, that performed super well. Something that's a bit different and more recent, we did a quiz with Amnesty based on surprising things that judges have said about women and girls. So yeah, this is much closer to the kind of subject area where they work. This was in 2020, and so yeah, it used like real life scenarios to form the questions. And this generated over 120,000 petition signatures for Amnesty. And of those, around 40,000 people opted in to the email list. So again, a really high performing quiz. And just to talk you through the Amnesty quiz, so you can see that journey. We all know what quizzes look like. We've seen hundreds of them, but this, I thought I'd just talk you through the slide so you can see what visually it looked like. That first slide there is an Instagram ad, so that's normally the first touch point that we have with people, something on social media. You click through, you can see that's the landing page. I'm not showing you all the different questions, but then when you get to the end, this is the pivot slide that we're talking about that kind of interrupts the game and sort of hits people with the reality of what's happening and asks them if they will add their name to help change things. A really simple sign up form. And then what we refer to as the daisy chain, which comes after that. So other asks that you can stack on the end. In this case, we had a donate ask at the end as well. Yeah, so that's what it looks like. Our top tips for quizzes. First of all, don't go too niche. Keep your subject of the quiz itself really broad and appealing. Nobody wants to take a quiz on your latest policy report. I'm sure you all know that. But yeah, so really broad subjects like, geography, maths, nature, health, they're all like really good topics to build a quiz around. But obviously it does need to kind of relate to your cause or your issue. So working really hard on that pivot is probably the most important part. It needs to feel smooth, it needs to feel natural, but you need to also like really interrupt and shock people, give them a wow moment, make them feel something emotive that really compels them to sign up. But crucially, we always suggest keep that sign up optional. Don't gate your results by making people sign up. We all hate that. We've all been on something that's made us do that and we just get annoyed and click away. You don't want people on your list who don't want to be there. So yeah, make that optional and give people ways to kind of skip through and do other things. And if they don't want to sign up, they might still share it. So yeah, and then at the bottom here, we've got this on all of the different tactic slides this morning. We've put some little test ideas and benchmarks, which hopefully for those of you who might already be doing these and are like wondering, well, what does good look like? Is my performing well? This will help you figure that out. So with testing, obviously there's so many things you can test on any kind of digital product that you create. At any one time, we're probably testing like 20 different data points and making sure that they're all like behaving in the right way. If you're only going to test 3 things, we've just put these in today as the most important. So for a challenge, obviously the concept itself, like don't just do one quiz or one thing and put it out, like develop a few different ideas, build some MVPs, minimal viable products, so very simple versions, using free software, or there's lots of things you can use to do that and test them and see which get people clicking and get interest. The UX itself, obviously you want people to get to the end of the quiz. That's the whole point of it. So you want to be getting around 70 to 90% completion rates. And And then the sign up itself, that critical pivot slide, yeah, test different frames, different ways that you can ask people to sign up. And yeah, you want to be aiming for around 10 to 30% of people who complete your quiz to sign up to your list, which might feel quite low. But for these like more popular, you know, game-based tools, you know, that's still a really good conversion rate. You'll get a lot more traffic for your paid social. But yeah, the proportion of people signing up will be smaller. So yeah, so that's challenges. I'm gonna race through, and I'm gonna bring Jack in. So welcome, Jack. Jack's gonna talk to us about our second tactic, which is shared values or hand raises. And just for some context, so Freedom from Torture, Forward Action have been working together since 2020, I think, on lots of on very broad digital mobilization program, covers lots of things, including fundraising, email, etc. But a core part of that has been using hand raisers as a tactic. And for those of you that haven't come across hand raisers, you know, as I say, they're a values-based petition style ask. It means that they can kind of operate independently from campaigns. So if you're not a campaigning organisation, you can definitely still run a hand raiser. If you are a campaigning organisation, they're great for like evergreen attraction. So when in between your active campaigns. And yeah, as Ali said, I think Freedom from Torture have grown their email list by around 75,000 new subscribers just from using hand raisers in the last couple of years. So Jack, yeah, do you want to, I put a couple of screen grabs here of two of them. Do you want to talk us through these two hand raisers and yeah, how they came about, how you decided on the subjects and how they kind of fit into your wider work?
Sure, thank you, Helen. Yeah, so I think, so I've been at Freedom from Torture for about 3 years. And when I joined, our approach to digital actions was very much that, you know, the government would be introducing a policy that would be harmful for Freedom from Torture's clients, and you know, as the bill would be going through Parliament, we would have a very targeted petition that, you know, it was really important to have and to try and get signatures behind it, but the audience for it was you know, was sometimes quite small because it was maybe a niche subject, and we were trying to think about ways that we could engage you know, more people on the broader values that underpin the work that the organization does. And we actually ran a test just before these around a refugees welcome petition, which brought something like 30,000 new supporters to us. And so we could really see that going a bit broader and testing out an approach to digital actions that was more about getting people to agree with broad value statements rather than, at least at the initial stage, you know, signing a really targeted petition around a piece of legislation was engaging more people. And then we're bringing people on who could take more actions in future. And then, you know, we partnered with Forward Action. These two hand raises are two of the main areas of work we've had. On the left here, we have official record of support for refugees in the UK. So again, this is very different from maybe how we would have worked in the past, where it's a very broad ask. We're basically asking people, do you believe that, you know, we should welcome refugees? Do you believe in showing compassion to refugees? This was tied into our campaign around the Nationality and Borders Bill, which again was never really, that wasn't sort of front page news every day when we were campaigning on it. And so we needed to find a way to speak to people about shared values in a way that would encourage more people to sign. And we, as you can see, we got, you know, almost 55,000 signatures on that action page. And we kind of integrated this throughout. This was basically sort of an evergreen paid ads campaign throughout the year that just was like ticking away in the background as our campaign was running. And if there were sort of peak moments, like, for example, channel crossings, we might introduce new frames, new ad creative to sort of speak to the moment, tap into the wider conversation, and also to integrate it with our campaign as much as possible. And yeah, likewise on the right here, obviously this page is already very dated, even though it's been only a week, but we we likewise, the government was looking to essentially gut the Human Rights Act, and probably will look to do that again now that Dominic Raab is back. And we basically, this was interesting because this was at the beginning of this year when we launched this, and we didn't have an ask, full campaigning ask, because we didn't know what what was going to be in the Bill of Rights. We didn't really have a sense yet of what was coming exactly, but we wanted to recruit as many people as we could who were with us, who wanted to be ready to stand up against any attacks on the Human Rights Act. So again, this was super broad. It was basically saying we're going to be fighting back against these reforms to the Human Rights Act, and we want you to join us. And that one, as you can see, has had almost 80,000 signatures. I think so yeah, we've recruited loads of people. Our list has grown a lot, and this has been a big part of it. And I think some of it's that mindset shift that a page that looks like a petition doesn't have to be a super targeted traditional petition where you've got a target and you are asking them to do X and then you sign your name on. That's still very important, has its place. But we found these kind of broader shared values hand raisers have been really useful for building a broader list of people who can then go on to ask to do things like sign other petitions, like write to targets, like donate. Yeah, and I think with this one as well, obviously Liz Truss was not the person on the page for that at the beginning of the year. So throughout the year, we have been sort of responding to news and updating the page, updating creative, working with Forward Action to look at, are there different angles that we can, add into our Facebook ads in order, to respond to the news agenda. And that always helps us to, recruit more people, because it just feels like it's speaking to the moment more. And I think it's definitely something we're sort of going to continue to do. We've also looked to do it with an open letter action in response to the Nationality and Borders Bill passing. But yeah, these are the two biggest ones so far.
Thanks, Jack. That's so insightful, and good to hear about all the tactics about updating and refreshing kind of the edges of it, rather than having to reinvent a whole new action every time. I thought I've got some more questions, and we can talk about freedom from torture. I'm just going to walk people through the journey before we do those questions, just so people can see. Obviously, these are the landing pages. So if I just click through, so you can see it in context. So this is just one of the ads that Jack was talking about. This is a Facebook ad, and I think Facebook was the main platform we found to be most effective for these hand raisers. So that's what people are one of the ads people are seeing. Obviously, we run hundreds of variants of different image and copy, and depending on what's in the news. This is the landing page, and I'll just share some stats as we go along for you. So I think on average this year, the cost per lead that we've seen across all of Freedom from Torture's hand raisers is averaged at 54p, which is super competitive. That's a really high performing set of hand raisers, and it just shows that there's so much public appetite for these issues at the moment, I think. After that sign up page, this is a good little tip that we've started doing. We actually ask people a question. We actually ask them 2 questions. It's like a mini survey. And what we've tested this a lot, and we found that if we introduce these mini surveys in the daisy chain, it actually then improves the ask that you then put straight after that. It feels counterintuitive because it's like another step and another thing to ask people, but we make sure the questions are very much they reflect people's values back to them. So yeah, as you can see here, it's not something that's hard to answer. It just makes people pause and think about why they've signed up. And then we hit them with a donate ask, which is a regular giving ask. So that's the kind of the key higher bar action in the daisy chain. If they don't want to do that, they can obviously keep clicking, and then we have a share ask at the end. So we're getting that organic traffic out. And I think that share, the click to share rate on average across these is around 30%, which is again really high performing. And I think that shows, even though this is coming after they've signed up and done a survey and been asked to donate, people are sticking with it and clicking through and still sharing at the end. So yeah, so just going back to Jack, it would be great to hear a bit more about how you've kind of integrated these people into the organisation. I'm sure lots of people are wondering, that's great, but what are these people going on to do, and how is your email list kind of behaving as a result of like all this growth? Yeah, so if you is there anything you can share around that?
Yeah, for sure. I think we actually just had a team away day yesterday, and we were looking at our sort of performance so far this year. It's interesting. I think in the first 4 months of this year, we had more digital campaign actions than we'd had in the 4 previous years before that put together. So we're really not just it's not just sort of a vanity metric where we're just getting more email subscribers and that looks nice for some KPIs for the board or something. Like those people are actually going on to take campaign actions with the organization, which is and moving beyond, even if their first port of call with the organization is a broader values-based hand raiser, we're seeing that people will go on to do, to sign other petitions, to donate, to write to the MP. We use a metric called members returning for action, which was like designed by an organization called Some of Us, which is about people who take a campaign action other than their first one in a given month. So the idea is that if that number's going up, it's because our email list essentially is more and more engaged. And that number on an average month in this year so far, that's more than double what it was last year. So we're really seeing that not only is this growing our list, but we're actually recruiting people who are willing to take multiple actions, not just this first one. Which I think is really important. We've also had like our income, so our email list income from email so far is about 12% up on where it was last year, and I think which is also really encouraging. And I think this last couple of years have been quite hard to benchmark with income because there's just been basically absolute chaos, but we've seen some really encouraging signs across fundraising results as well.
Great, thank you. And as a final thing, if anyone here today hasn't done hand raisers before and would like to go back and try them out, what advice would you have for someone trying to navigate, getting buy-in in the organisation and sort of getting started with these?
So I would say first off that I feel like I'm really lucky that at Freedom from Torture we've had quite a lot of support from senior management throughout this. But what I would say, if you were struggling to get buy-in, I think starting small with a kind of pilot program. I think Helen, you talked about minimum viable products earlier. If there's a way that you can start small and then use the results as a sort of proof point when you're making the case to your manager or senior management or whoever it is, I think that's always really persuasive if you're able to actually use data. So that's the first thing I'd say is really important. And it's also easier to get sign off for a test than it is in a whole project. If you say, I want our entire acquisition strategy next year to be built around hand raisers, that's going to be harder to get sign off for than we've got a campaign coming up, can we test a hand raiser around this theme? I think it will just be easier for you to get buy-in, and then, as I say, you can use any learning you get from that to inform making the case later down the line. I think secondly, I think it depends, depending on the structure of your team, it's like worth thinking about who your allies are. And again, in our team, we've got a sort of centralized digital team. So I run digital and campaigns team, and within our team, we run the email program, we run, paid social, we run digital campaigns, digital fundraising. And so I think like having this is as a result, just by virtue of the structure of the team, our hand raisers are really integrated with our campaigning work and with our fundraising work. And we wouldn't launch, every hand raiser that we launch has a fundraising element, but is also linked to our campaigns. And I think if if that's the case in your organization, then that is another proof point when you're making the case. And if it's not, then I think you need to think about, if you're just like, if you're working on digital fundraising alone, maybe you need to think about who, getting the campaigns or digital campaigns team on your side and vice versa. So try and think about building a kind of coalition of people where, there are shared goals behind building a bigger list. It's not just good for fundraising. It's not just good for campaigning. Like it's about getting those shared goals between fundraisers and campaigners as well. So yeah, when you're making the case, if it's not a central digital team, just thinking about who else you'd want to have on side when you're making that case. I think those are my two big pointers.
That's really good advice. Thank you, Jack. We'll hopefully have time for some more questions at the end. So if you have more questions for Jack, do pop them in the Q&A, and we'll loop back round and do those towards the end. But let's move on through the other tactics, because we have a few more things to talk to you about. So yeah, thank you, Jack. We'll jump back to you later. Jack's already given some great advice about creating hand raisers, shared values. To add to that, I think our top tips would just be, make that hook, that headline really emotive and something that's almost impossible to disagree with. And then within the hand raiser, I don't know if you could read the two examples that we had up there, but make sure you need that really clear theory of change of how signing up is gonna make a difference. I think that's often one of the challenges we get from organizations is like, yeah, but what difference does it make? And this is where, having a strong movement story and like belief in your digital mobilization is really needs to shine through, and people can see how they can have a role in solving this, and it starts with signing up. And then, as Jack was saying, if you're already doing one of these, try doing more, try having different ones, rotate them. You can rest them for a bit if the cost starts going up. If they're on different kind of themes or issues, then when that issue is in the news, it means you can ramp up and like put more spend behind it, because obviously people like signing topical things. And again, we've got some benchmarks and test recommendations at the bottom. Test the frames. I think with Freedom from Torture, we always tested about 3 or 4 different frames for every hand raiser we've launched. And yeah, obviously we can see which one is appealing most. Test your paid social. The ads that drive there are critical, and then test your opt-ins, which I will talk a bit more about later as well. Okay, so our third tactic is surveys. As I said, we've started testing these more as a first point of engagement. We've got 2 examples to share with you. First up, our partners at Refuge. They've got a very their digital mobilization program has been going quite a few years now. So we introduced surveys as I said, as another tactic alongside. They have hand raisers as well and quizzes, another way to kind of bring people in. And this is getting cost per leads of around £1.90 at the moment. And yeah, so far on this, I think we've had around 4,500 subscribers, and a good cash donation rate of 1.34 coming off the back of these. So that's the donate ask at the point of sign up. And this is just what it looks like, just to give you an example of what you click through. It's very short. It's about, I think, 3 or 4 questions, and then a sign up form at the end. And then this is another example. This is from Dignity in Dying. You can see they're getting a cost per lead of around £1.65 at the moment from their surveys. Again, starting with social ads, asking people to tell us what they think. A very short petition and a sign up. And I think, again, our top tips for these, really short. This is primarily a tool that is meant to engage and inspire people to join you. It's not something where every team gets to ask their top questions to potential supporters. So, 3 to 5 questions. You want people to get through to the end so that you can ask them to join you. Make the questions really easy. Don't confuse people. Frame your questions so that you don't need to be an expert to answer them. Multiple choice, for example, rather than like free text questions is probably the way to go. And make sure the questions encourage people to reflect on their values and motivations, because that will then prime them to want to then act when you ask them. And again, theory of change, really important. Make it clear when you do ask them to sign up, like what difference that will make to the issue they've just been thinking about. Benchmarks along the bottom, I won't go through those in detail. You can obviously take these away to look at if you're looking to optimize what you're doing. On to opt-ins. We're getting technical now. This is the data end. We love opt-ins at Forward Action. For many years now, ever since GDPR came in, we've realized that how you frame an opt-in is critical for maximizing the amount of people that will sign up to your email list. And obviously, most of the time we will be using some kind of opt-in, unless you're just doing like a very basic sign up to get our emails that you might have on your homepage, for example. If it's on a form that is a petition or a hand raiser or a tool, you're usually going to be needing that additional permission for people to receive your emails. So these are two examples that we're running at the moment, just so you can see like some good practice. Care for Calais getting around 69% of people opting in through this form, and Stonewall getting 66%. And these are both hand raisers, just for context. And yeah, we've tested hundreds of different layouts and ways of doing it. So we're pretty confident in being able to say, this is the way to go. So first of all, you want to ask people you want to be super clear about what you're doing. If they're confused about what you're asking them, they probably won't tick the box. So yeah, be very clear. Do you want to receive emails? And then frame that question around what impact they're going to have, seeing if it's a campaign, that they'll find out what happens at the end of the campaign. Does it make a difference? Did we win? Fear of missing out, another great frame. They want to hear about what's happening, and other ways that you can make a change as well are good hooks to use there. But crucially, test that, find the frame that's right for your organization. And then on a layout thing, yes, no radio buttons. Hopefully you're all doing this anyway, but much better option than just a tick box, because obviously you have to engage with the yes, no buttons and select one. And then, as you hopefully saw there on the Stonewall example, I've just included what happens if you click no. You get this little pop-up which kind of says, are you sure? Do you want to rethink that? So you're giving people another chance to opt in there. And yeah, some benchmarks. Opt-ins are simpler. You're probably just like looking at testing that framing question or the layout or something there. Okay, hopefully most people are still with us. That's great. I realise I'm going at quite high speed, but this is our last tactic. So we're on to sharing. Maximise your shares. I think, yeah, I'm sure everybody is doing social shares at the end of everything they do. Again, if you really focus in on it and test it and make it the best it can be, it's essentially free traffic, free email subscribers. If more people are sharing at the end of your actions, and if that's driving more people back to take that action, that's like bonus attraction happening. And in really high performing tools where shares are really high, it could be driving like up to 20% of all your signers could be coming through these channels, which are free. So it's really worth looking at closely. Here's two examples that, again, are quite recent from our partners. We've got Mermaids here, and then Good Law Project. I think, yeah, both of these are shares that come after a hand raiser. So people have signed a hand raiser, and this is in the daisy chain. And I think, yeah, Mermaids are getting around 30% of people clicking to share this. Good Law, I think it's at 33%. So that's a kind of good benchmark for something that's quite shareable. And you'll see, what can we say on these? Having a preview of the share content itself is really important. People want to see what they're going to be sharing. So just checking that they like it. And then our top tips. I mean, it's obvious, but first of all, think, have I created something people will want to share? Would I share this myself? If the answer to that is no, then you probably want to rethink your tool, or think how you can angle it a bit differently, or what the share ask is going to be, so that it's something people are going to want to share. And yeah, I'm sure you all know this, but yeah, what do people like to share? Anything that makes them look good, basically, that makes them look informed, that makes them look like a good person, reflects their values. People don't tend to like sharing too much personal information about themselves, so bear that in mind with what you're asking. Always include the share ask, build it into everything. You might want to change the order that you do that. So if your primary goal is fundraising, you might want to put a donate ask first before a share. It makes a slight difference as to, to the volumes you'll get on each, but it's always worth putting it in. And then finally, choose your channels carefully. Don't just stick every share button you can think of on there. This is another strategic point it's worth thinking about. We normally see Facebook and WhatsApp drive the most traffic back. So you want to be looking at what is driving traffic back to your tool rather than what people are clicking on. If you include Twitter, quite a few people will probably click to share on Twitter. And I think you'll find that almost no traffic comes back as a result because of the nature of the platform. Prioritize Facebook, WhatsApp. Less people will click on WhatsApp, but it drives a lot more, like proportionately a lot more people back to your site because it's more of a peer-to-peer channel. If you're really awake and have had a second coffee, you might have spotted that we have a Twitter button on the Good Law Project share. So you're probably going to try and catch me out. The reason that is on there, I don't know if you know Good Law Project, they're very active on Twitter. They've got a huge profile on Twitter. It made sense for them to have that because, it's a very kind of active platform for them. But as a rule, probably won't see too many. So that's it. We've raced through our tactics. I hope I haven't rushed too much and you're still with me. Here's the recap. If you're doing these already, hopefully this has been useful to think about how you might optimize them, how you might start running multiple tactics at the same time, and to see where your benchmarks are. If these are new tactics, hopefully that's given you an idea of how to get started. So we're gonna jump back in with a poll, Sally.
Yeah, hopefully, just to see how you're feeling about these. Which of the tactics are you most excited to try? So launching the poll now, gonna give it 20 seconds. So hopefully you can all see the poll and seeing what people are excited about here. It's a really, really even split, which is interesting to see. And I'm sure people are already doing some of these things, but not necessarily others. At the moment, okay, I'm going to end the poll now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, we have a winner that 39% of people are most excited about trying the challenge quiz engagement tool angle of it. And then 27% are excited about shared values, and then down to 16% for surveys. So it's interesting that that's kind of the order of things.
Definitely, that's super interesting to see. I think challenges would definitely be a good one to try, because apart from anything else, they're just really fun to build. And they can work super well. That's great. Thank you for sharing where your thoughts are. Just before we go to questions, we couldn't leave without just nodding to the fact that obviously this is just one step in a bigger journey. We focused today on the acquisition side of this journey here that I'm showing you, but obviously the digital mobilization model has a lot more steps. So we haven't talked in detail about social ads that you'll need to drive traffic towards these things. We haven't talked in a huge amount of detail about that daisy chain of actions afterwards, and we haven't talked at all about the kind of email journey, conversion journeys, how you're then activating your supporters. All critical points to focus on. But yes, that's for another webinar, another day. This is just hopefully something a bit useful if you're wanting to try some of these out. We thought we'd share some of our favorite tools that we often use ourselves when we're doing the MVP versions to test something out. So these are all different things you can use if you want to, Riddle is great for the quizzes. For hand raisers, of course, we recommend our own Blueprint platform, which Forward Action has developed based on all the testing and optimization we've done over the years. It's a really seamless platform that integrates with your CRM, and you can use it just to create really quick hand raiser pages. Obviously, if you have something like Engaging Networks, there are lots of platforms that have similar functionality. So you may already have something in-house that could host a hand raiser easily. Typeform and SurveyMonkey for surveys, and then just some useful tools there about sharing and testing, which I will leave you to come back to. But yeah, I wanted to make sure we had plenty of time for questions. So back to you, Ali.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Helen. Thank you, Jack. That was really informative. And hopefully everyone along the way found the same. We've got lots of questions. A lot of the questions are relating to those tools. So I wonder, kind of, part of it is, we'll share these slides. I've just put this in the comments. We're going to share these slides. You'll have those links, so you'll be able to see those and dig into them in a bit more detail. But I guess we could ask some of those questions now for you on the questions around the quizzes of where are the quizzes hosted? What are they built on? Is it email or website? What software do we use? So do you want to just talk for a few seconds about kind of how we build out those quiz tools, Helen?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so as I just said, we normally MVP everything we build, minimal viable product, so a very rough prototype. And for that, we would normally use one of the tools I just mentioned. So for quizzes, you can use Riddle. You can also use Typeform. That's often what we use because it's just a very easy to build like survey tool. I'm not sure that there might be some kind of small costs attached if you want to do high volumes, but I think a lot of these have like at least a free trial period, or it's quite low cost to use them, and they're very easy to use. You don't need to be a developer to build those out. And yeah, there's no reason you couldn't then run the full quiz on using those platforms to put it out into the world with something like a quiz. So like with the 9 countries quiz or the Amnesty quiz that you saw, we then built the best performing prototype into a full kind of hosted quiz, which we built. That's custom development that we did for those organizations. So yeah, you may want to invest in building something bigger if your results look promising, but there's absolutely no reason you couldn't just use those tools to run your quiz. Obviously where they aren't as great as like a custom build is at the pivot stage and the kind of onward journey. So I think most of them would let you get to the end and have a link that would then take you to a sign up page, for example, that you would need to host yourself. But doing that daisy chain where it's a really seamless experience of like, now share this, now donate, that's obviously harder on these third-party tools.
Brilliant, thank you. And now a question for you, Jack, as well, which is around the hand raisers. So we've got a couple of questions around hand raisers, but the first one is how did you promote hand raisers? How are you identifying target audiences and channels to reach them? And then there's a second part of that, but I'll ask the first bit first.
How do we promote them, as in
what channels are you using to get there, and audience targeting, if we're doing that? I know this.
Yeah. So, I mean, primarily we use Facebook ads to promote our hand raisers. We have actually experimented with using them on, press ads and things like that as well, but I'm not as across the results for that side, but we have used it from some other channels as well. But primarily it's Facebook ads, and then we work with the Forward Action team to identify audiences. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but generally speaking, we would say, and Forward Action would say, that broader targeting, when you're trying to appeal to people based on values, going a bit broader tends to work better, letting the sort of algorithm basically find people who agree with the values rather than trying to be hyper specific. But obviously we're always testing that and seeing if there's lookalike audiences or like charity audiences that are working. I don't know if anyone from Forward Action wants to come in a little more on the audience targeting side.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Jack. We always see that going broad is normally the best tactic with social audiences. And yeah, Facebook, we regularly test other social platforms. Every so often we'll go back to Instagram and Twitter and other places. Facebook has always been like the most cost effective place for driving like high volume, good quality traffic to these tools. Obviously Instagram, we are diversifying more, so we often do use Instagram alongside Facebook, and I think TikTok is the other obviously up and coming platform. That happened a long time ago. It's huge. We are testing how to use TikTok for donations and acquisition. So yeah, but we're very much like in the testing phases of those. Yeah, so hopefully in a few months we'll have some exciting yeah, learnings and advice to be able to share on using that one.
Great, thank you. And there's a question here that brought a big smile to my face because it's something that we talk about a lot, and I'm sure Helen's going to have a lot to say. But someone said they've seen a big jump in the cost of paid social in the past year due to the changes on Facebook, which I know we've seen as well, and we do a lot of work around. So if they're relying on that to build their list, should they be focusing on optimizing the ads and to make the most of that, or looking at organic shares, or how can organizations tackle that if they've seen the costs go up?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and yeah, I'm sure it's happening across the board. We've seen it on, you know, almost every campaign we work on. Interestingly, we've started to see a trend go back down again in the last few months, so we're very pleased about that. We did have really high cost peaking like earlier in the year, and the last few months, like some of those results I've shared, you know, Freedom from Torture are seeing, you know, 54p per lead, and we've got similar results on other kind of live projects at the moment. So we're not really sure what's happening, whether the algorithm is just catching up or things are improving. But yeah, I'd say don't give up on paid social. It's still our lifeblood in terms of reaching people. Organic shares, I mean, yeah, as I said, like, make sure you're making the most of any shares and like getting as many organic shares as you can for all your content. But I think you just won't get the reach you need through that alone. There's so much you can do with paid social to test and optimize it. You know, whether that's within Meta, testing different creative variants, you know, test like 6 images, 6 different copy variants, test different frames. It really can make a difference. And again, with audiences as well, although, yeah, I wouldn't advise getting too distracted by like micro testing smaller groups. Like, we always like find that a big broad audience is the way to go.
Brilliant, thank you. And Jack, I think something that you mentioned there, which I absolutely love to hear, about how your list is taking kind of many more actions now, and that you're getting kind of 4 times like as many actions in the last year as you've had in the last 4 years, which is awesome. Do you think there's kind of, I know that you have a very active email list and you ask your subscribers to do a lot. Do you think that is another way to potentially, do you see list growth from that, or is that something that you haven't had a chance to look into yet, but kind of getting your existing list to take more actions to share as well?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think one of the things that we've done, which I think was in that M&R UK report, was, you know, suggesting to send more emails. So we're sending at least 1 email a week now, sometimes more. And I guess one thing that's also helpful is that our emails tend, you know, they're quite they're on the same subjects that those hand raisers are on. So obviously people are coming in on broad values-based statements around refugees or around the Human Rights Act, and they're seeing when they're joining, going through our list, they're seeing emails about that and other campaign actions about that. So yeah, the fact that we're sort of doing more actions for people to take means that obviously people are, you know, if people don't particularly feel motivated to sign one petition or take one tweet action, they might be willing to take another one that sort of speaks to them a bit more. So just trying to get that sort of varied engagement tools in your email calendar. And then, yeah, I guess also, if, as you say, if your organic sharing part of the daisy chain is optimized, then if you're almost once a week or every other week, you'll have a chance for supporters to share something where you're just sending out an email. You know, our email list is like 160,000 people now. So every week we're giving, or every other week, usually there's something happening to the email list where they're then asking to share, we're then asking them to share stuff on social. So that also really helps. So part of one sort of side effect or beneficial effect of growing your list is there's more people who can do that organic growth. I think I'd agree with Helen that that's not enough on its own to build a whole hand raiser program out, but it's like a sort of useful thing that you want to kind of be building into your email calendar, I think.
Brilliant, thank you very much. I'm aware that we are very nearly at time. If it's okay with everyone, I'm going to squeeze in one more question, which kind of relates to that. And then any questions that we haven't answered, we're going to pull together into a blog post. When we share the recording of this session, we'll also share that blog post with a bit more information. So if we haven't had a chance to answer your question yet, we will look at all of that and bring it in as well. But this is the last one, which is kind of the why grow your list. Have you seen a higher income from your email file since the list has increased? Because someone said here they're growing their list a lot, but they're getting hit by increasing cost for contacts on the email platform, because you have more people, you have to pay more to email them. And are you seeing that offset by the value of having that bigger email list, Jack?
Yeah, ours is like more than offset. So it's like 12% increase overall. And I think with Engaging Networks, we had to pay like a sort of one-off fee to increase our list size. But other than that, I think, yeah, it's been more than offset. It'd be interesting as well. Obviously, this year there's been a lot of growth in the list this year, and obviously Christmas is coming up very soon now somehow. So it will be really interesting for us to do some analysis after Christmas and look at the impact that that's had as well, because yeah, we get about half our income at Christmas online. So I think for us to get a really solid idea of how this year has gone, I think we'll have a better idea once that's done as well. But even without that, I'd say it's been more than offset those costs.
Brilliant, thank you. That is great to hear. I hope that's what the answer was going to be. I think I'm on the Freedom from Torture email list and love the emails that you send, and it's a really creative and engaging mix. So if anyone here isn't signed up to that, I highly recommend you signed up to see some great emails in action. Okay, I am going to wrap things up. Helen, is there anything you would like to add before we go?
No, I don't think so. Just thank you all for coming and sticking with us, and I hope it's been useful.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Helen. Thank you, Jack, for joining us. It's been really fascinating to hear. And thank you everyone who joined us and stuck around and asked some fantastic questions. We'll follow up with lots of information for you, and we'll share the recording and the slides, and you can pass it on to anyone who you think would be interested. Have a brilliant Thursday. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye.